I've been having a lot of fun over the last few weeks doing different videos on speculation. And these videos are really fun because at the end of the day, no one knows where the MCU is going to head. No one knows which books are really going to go up in value. So it's kind of fun to play the what if game. What's interesting is that I have a set of books in front of me that I really do think could see a spike in value in the future. And the vast majority of these books I've actually held in my collection for years and years. Now, what's interesting is that part of this set of books actually serves as the underpinnings for the entire MCU. If you want to know what I'm talking about, stay tuned to this video. Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to talk about speculation. Why? Because it's fun. At the end of the day, we don't know what's going to see a spike in value. We don't know what's going to prompt something to suddenly go from being a $1 book to a book that's worth a few $100s. But my point is, it's fun to play the guessing game, especially if you have a few kernels of truth that you can kind of root your speculation in. I certainly don't have any insider information, but I do like to play the guessing game based upon the things that I see happening in front of me. So today I want to talk about a set of books that I think could see some spikes in value in the future. Now, I originally purchased the vast majority of these books because I enjoy reading them as a kid. And so I have already owned most of them. I've gone out and kind of upgraded in recent years, but I've owned the vast majority of these books for years and years. So again, this is all just about having a little bit of fun. And maybe you even have these books in your collection. So if you think about what's happened with the MCU, whether you're talking about phase 1, 2, or 3, they have been rooted in the Infinity Gauntlet series. Everything that has kind of transpired has really been built around the Infinity Stones. And the Infinity Stones in the Infinity War is rooted in the Infinity Gauntlet. One of my favorite stories from my childhood. It all started with Thanos' quest and of course then led into the Infinity Gauntlet. So here's a set of books I have in front of me. This is a set that I've picked up probably 8 months ago. This is a replacement set for another set that I have in my boxes that I've had since childhood. I went out and bought this set because these were actually signed by the creator of Thanos. And that's what I thought was really cool about these Jim Starlings. So here is Infinity Gauntlet number 1, a gorgeous, gorgeous cover that you have probably seen in countless videos, countless ads, etc., etc. Here is number 2. Another very iconic cover featuring Captain America, Thor, and She-Hulk, and of course, the White Vision there. We've got a wonderful signature right down there at the bottom. Here is number 3, another great cover. Number 4, where Thanos is saying, "Come and get me." Infinity Gauntlet number 5, featuring several of the cosmic characters. And again, if you ask me where I think the MCU is headed, and why I believe it to be cosmic, partly because of some of the things that happen here. Number 6 in the end of the Infinity Gauntlet series. If you have not read this, I highly recommend it. It is a really, really well done story arc that happens to be, again, one of my personal favorites. So again, if you've seen any of the various movies in phase 1, 2, or 3, you know that they tie back in some way, shape, or form back to Infinity Gauntlet. And you can honestly pick this set of books up. I think you can get the number 1 for under $200 as a 9.8, and you can certainly pick up copies of the entire story arc for a reasonable amount of money. Definitely not out of the price range. I don't know if these books will see a serious spike in value. I honestly don't know. My guess is that we could see the price maybe stabilize, but as far as it running up to $1,000 book, I just don't think that it's going to happen. I mean, it probably should have happened already if it was going to happen. So if you pick this series up, I say pick it up because you really want to understand where Thanos comes from, and you really want to understand the various phases and how all those things came to be. This, again, is a wonderful story arc. So the next question is kind of to some degree, where is the MCU headed? At the end of Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos is essentially defeated. And he's defeated for a variety of reasons. And he has failed to achieve his ultimate goals lots of times for various reasons, in many cases because of his own efforts. But he ends up failing here. And what ends up happening is that the heroes that remain decide that the Infinity Stones and the Infinity Gauntlet can never be brought back together again. And they decide that these things have to be spread far apart, and they have to be guarded to avoid anyone consolidating that much power in one place again. And you kind of see this playing out in the MCU. So what happens in the books is there is something that is formed called the Infinity Watch. And the Infinity Watch is actually led by Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock was teased at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy, but he has not been introduced to the MCU. But theoretically, he could be introduced to the MCU. And if that happens, he theoretically could lead the Infinity Watch, which is a group of heroes that have band together to take the Infinity Stones and to safeguard them. And so I offer to you as a spec book, Warlock and the Infinity Watch. This is number 1. This, of course, is a collector's item first edition. And this is the start of the story arc in which Adam Warlock, Drax, Gamora, Moondragon, Pip, and also Thanos band together and actually protect the stones. And you can see many of those individuals right there on the front cover. These are also signed. I can't remember who I had signed these, but I actually did this back when I was a kid, and honestly don't even remember who I had signed them. I need to figure it out. But here is number 3. I think I have other parts of this story arc, which I think run from 1 to 42, but I only pulled out a couple. Again, this is another story arc that is a relatively inexpensive story arc that is a continuation of what happens in Infinity Gauntlet. Both really good story arcs. And again, I picked these up back in the day because I was a fan of Thanos and also eventually of Adam Warlock. And in fact, went out and bought several other Adam Warlock titles because of what I read in these various books. So that is one possible way that the MCU could go. They could, defeat Thanos, take the Infinity Gems or Stones, and then disband them, and then follow each of those 6 individuals down their various trials and tribulations as they attempt to protect the stones. Another way that they could go is a more secretive way. And someone recently brought this series to my attention for a different reason, at least I think. But as I went back 2 days ago and started reading this story arc from the beginning, I saw a connection to what was happening in Infinity Watch and, of course, the Infinity Gauntlet. And it took me back to the New Avengers Illuminati. This is a 5-part story arc written by Bendis. And this features Black Bolt, Doctor Strange, Iron Man, Charles Xavier, Namor, and Mr. Fantastic. And this is essentially a secretive organization of various leaders across various teams that have chosen to keep their activities secret from their loved ones and also from their team members. And in part 2, which is the reason why I highlight this, they have decided that the Infinity Gems, the Infinity Stones, are too powerful to be in one place at one time, and they band together to actually protect these stones and to hide them and prevent anyone from consolidating them. And I'm not going to go into the details of this, but again, this is another potential way that the MCU could potentially go. And if you think about it, several of these characters have already been introduced either into the MCU or into various television programs. I don't have number 3 in this story arc, but I do have number 4, which is by and large, I think, a throwaway issue unconnected to number 2. And then there's also issue number 5, which essentially starts Secret Invasion. You can see that there's an alien that took over the identity of Elektra, and this leads into a whole nother story arc that I think ran for several years, and that was the Secret Invasion. So again, several sets of books that theoretically could serve as a source of inspiration for future MCU movies, but also for television as well. And if you are a fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you actually see some elements of this playing out in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And again, this is all for fun. This is all just guesswork on my part based upon some of the pieces that I see in play. I welcome your thoughts and your ideas around these story arcs that I've kind of shared. Maybe you have a similar opinion. Maybe you have a different point of view. I welcome it all. As always, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video.